Hello, welcome. So I've been asked twice in the last 24 hours. Two seems to be a thing for me at the moment. Things keep coming up once, twice in 24 hours. And I know that it's then the thing to do. So the thing that's happened in the last 24 hours for me has been that two of you have asked beautiful, beautiful questions on the same subject. So I'm just going to share with you a bit of information that I can share with you. So a lot of this info is from my amazing teacher, Jane Hardwick Collins, and she taught me how to do this. And I'm now sharing this with you because of where we are in the world right now. It's just so needed. It's always been needed, but people are screaming for it right now. And please just have my info, have it and do with it whatever you need to do. So how to run a women's circle, why you might want to run a women's circle, and all the little bullet points that I could think of earlier on today about that. So I'm hoping that this is quite a good big list of this stuff, and just notice what you notice. So listen and hear the thing that's important for you to hear. So it's going to be different for all of you, and women's circles are different for everybody that runs them, that holds the space for them. But this is some of the basic stuff that you might want to know about. Okay, so this will be on my page, just in the videos for you to come back to at any point. If you want to take some notes from it or send it to anybody else, you're very welcome to. So, women's circles. The first thing I want to say is about gender. Now, this is my opinion on this, so formulate your own. Women's circles are for women. So I like to state that a women's circle is for anybody who identifies as a woman. The thing to think about with this is that, yes, a lot of it, and I'll talk about this a bit more in the future, but the thing for me that's important about this is that not everybody who is a woman has a menstrual cycle for a variety of reasons. Women who are, yes, it will, Jenny, be available after as a video. So you just click into the videos and you can re-find it. So yeah, women who, there's only a small amount of women who actually menstruate. So this isn't necessarily just for women who menstruate. So if you want to take this on a wider perspective of that, I include trans women in my circles, and I like to state that anybody who identifies as a woman is welcome. And just feel how that sits with you and what wording and things that feel important to you. The things that I like to note about that is that a woman who is a trans woman will have gone through so much to make the claim for their identity. So who the hell would I be to question their identity? The thing also to note is the menstruation aspect of it is, like I said, not every woman menstruates. So whenever I'm putting forward the menstrual cycle aspects of cycles work, and like I said, we'll go into what is included in a women's circle shortly. But when I'm talking about any sort of cycles, I just like to point out that the menstrual cycle is a part of a cycle. It's one of the cycles, and it's an amazing cycle, and we can learn huge amounts from it. We don't need to have a menstrual cycle to do that. Okay, so gender, take that and do with that as you wish for your own, in your own way. So the next thing I want to say is, let me see. So I'm not going to talk much about the history of women's circles because you can go away and find lots about that. I just want to point out that We have been, this is one of Jane Hardwicke Collins's comments, that we have been sitting in circle in history for way longer than we haven't. So when you first sit in circle, in a women's circle, you'll just get this strong sense of knowing and remembering, because all of our ancestors were doing this until the very last few hundred years, really. The other thing to note is that this is pan-cultural. So this, as with the shamanism, it just gets me really excited to know that this has been happening on every continent, in every indigenous culture, including our own before we lost it, all over the world. So women's circles have been everywhere and they are in everybody's background. Okay, so feel free to have a look up the reasons that people might want to sit in circle, and I will be going through some of those. So some of them are based on menstrual rights. So the bleeding women, the menstruating women would have sat together in circle to rest and to honour their blood time. And also to be away from the masculine and away from the doing aspect. And they would have sat together and been nourished and looked after with all of the other women as well. So those who weren't bleeding too would have sat together in circle. And there's loads and loads I could share with you about that, but I'd really recommend that you just go away and, if you're interested, go away and research why we would sit in circle for yourself. There's lots of books and films and all sorts of different things, and you need to use your filter for that. But yeah, so lots of info out there. Okay, next one, let me see. So when we sit in circle with women, we will be doing it for lots of different reasons. So when I said at the beginning, hear what you hear, if you're interested in setting up a women's circle, you need to notice, what is your thing? Why do you want to do this? Is it to honour the menstrual cycle? Is it to create a safer space for women to be? Is it to honour a certain part of the moon cycle? Is it to honour the different sabbats throughout the year? Is it to hold a small group of women in a closed circle, and I'll go through closed and open later, to go really deep together? There's loads of different reasons that might get you excited about this. It might be because you're passionate about trauma-informed holding of space. You might be a counsellor, you might be, and whatever your reason is, nourish it, find it and research that, and then base your circles around that thing. So mine was the dark moon, and my dark moon passion just spreads out through all of my work, and I know that it's something that's really important to me. So if you're interested in the cycles and the moon cycles and that sort of stuff, I'm putting together my online teaching on that. It's this huge package I'm putting together, and I'll tell you a bit more about that at the end. So if you are doing and putting together your women's circle work and want to run a women's circle, I really, really recommend that you do that bit, unless you know lots already about cycles. Okay, so next thing about women's circles is that I want to mention, just look through my notes. Jane also likes to say that a woman's circle is your birthright. So one of the questions, and one of the things that I hear a lot from myself as well is permission. It's like, am I allowed to do this? Like, is this something that you need to be, told you should do this, or that you need to be, taught by a mentor to do? And of course you can, you can go and learn for years and years and years and years how to hold space and how to do this. However, right now, especially right now, women need these spaces. Women have always needed these spaces, and in Western culture right now, we've lost them. So do it. Please do it. If you feel like you need my permission, I am giving you permission to please set up a women's circle, create the community that you are desiring and that your friends or sisters, you know, have been saying to you that they desire and they need. Please, please do it. Please do it. Set up that women's circle. And you will be, you will have the women attend that need to attend. You will have the women that are there on the same page as you. There is no worry or fear that, you know, you will be attracting the wrong woman. It just won't happen. The right women will come, and they might not come back because they're not the right women, and that's fine, you know, it's absolutely fine. Set up your circle for you and for the women that you know, and then invite as you wish around you. So community is crucial, especially in times right now, and that might be one of your big reasons for setting up a women's circle. Holding space for people. As I said a bit earlier about what your thing is, so one of your things might be that you're really passionate about children, or you're really passionate about mothers, for example. And there's a few people I know that have talked about or that have done women's circles, especially for mothers. And one of the things that Jane Hardwicke Collins showed me about holding space and holding women's circles for mothers is this beautiful, beautiful idea that the baby is the VIP in your circle. So if you're doing this work and you create a circle where mothers and babies aren't welcome, Jane would say that that's not the work. That's not this work. We need to welcome everybody, however best we can. So Jane's way of doing this is saying that if a baby is crawling or actively moving around, to see if the mother can then hand that baby to somebody else while she comes to circle, potentially. Just because that baby will then get into everything and pull apart the altar or candles or whatever if you have them. However, if you are wanting to hold a circle that is completely open to all women and childcare shouldn't be something to hold people back, we simply create the space where toddling children are safe. You know, so no candles on the floor, for example. So yeah, back to the babies and the little children. So they are the VIPs in the circle, and the mothers who are caring for them and feeding them and holding them are also a part of that package. And they're VIPs because they're closer to source than we are. They're at that liminal point of the cycle. They're just here, and death is just there, and rebirth is just here. So babies are really close to source. And we need to honour the mother and honour the baby. So that's one thing to think about if you are thinking of running or opening a women's circle. Okay, next thing. Find your thing, babies, birthright. Yeah, so circle. Circle, circle, circle. There are some basic factors and important things to consider with circle. So sitting in circle, it's almost as if the circle is the medicine. So you are not, as the space holder, you are not the one doing anything here. You are not actively doing. The circle itself is the medicine or the shaman. And everybody in that circle is completely equal. That is the very nature of a circle. You're all sat looking at each other. Nobody is sat higher or lower than anybody else. You are all completely equal. Everyone is a teacher and everyone is a student. So you will be listening to everyone's stories and listening to each other and hearing what you need to hear. And it will be helping you and adding to your knowledge of yourself and wisdom. So it's really wonderful if you have a circle where you have lots of different ages of women as well. You've got that real honouring of different ages. That's beautiful. Yeah, so everyone acts as a witness in a circle as well. So we're really witnessing each other and listening to each other. And just by the act of witnessing, when you're heard. To be heard is a really, really powerful thing. One of the important things in circle is to listen with compassion. So out of all of these things that I'm talking about, if you're starting a women's circle, I just invite you to bullet point the things that you want to share at the beginning of each circle. So again, this is going to be different if you have a closed or an open circle. I'll tell you a bit about that now, I think. So a closed circle is, these are the women who attend every month for a set amount of time, or every 2 months, or whenever it is that you do your circle. So say you have 5 women that always come, and they only don't come if they really can't. And then with those 5 women, you can feel a bit safer each time you meet. You know each other more deeply, and you can go really quite deep with your stories and trust each other much more. So that's a closed circle where you're not inviting other people in. And when you're starting your first circle, you might find that an open circle would work better, at least for a little amount of time, so that you can bring people in and they can get a taste of it. Open circle is literally just that. It's when anybody can join. You put the information out there on social media or invite anybody within your community or friendship groups, and they're welcome to turn up. Okay, so setting up a closed circle, you will share all of this information in detail at the beginning of your year together, for example. And then on each gathering or each circle, you may just share a few little bullet points of things just to refresh and recap everybody's memories. In an open circle, you will need to tell everybody the information they need to know at the beginning of each circle, because they won't all necessarily know this stuff. So just keep some bullet points of things that you need to share at the beginning of each circle. So one of those that is important to share, or could be important for you to share, is we are all equal, and we are all each other's teachers, and we are listening to each other with the ears of our heart, as some people would put it. There's another part to that. What is it? Listening with the ears of our heart to the other voices of oneself speaking. So the other people in the circle will share something that is a part of your voice, and your circle is of one, and it's this beautiful sharing and helping of each other. The next thing you might want to share is the one that is crucial in the beginning of any circle at all, is confidentiality. So if we're aiming to create a circle of safety, and be as safe as possible, to know that the women that you're sitting with are not going to share with anybody else any of your stories is essential. And the trust deepens as you spend more time together, but making a promise together of confidentiality is one of the really essential parts of setting up circle. So I like to go into lots of detail on that, and I talk people through where the boundaries of that confidentiality is. So, one of the things being taking notes. Somebody brilliantly asked this the other day, and I hadn't really talked about it before. If you're taking notes through the circle of, I've just realized this about myself, do you want to suggest to people that they do not write other people's names in there? So there's lots of little details to consider about confidentiality, and it's really good to open it up to all the women there to share their thoughts or their questions on the confidentiality, so that you can deepen it together and you can work with what each woman needs from the confidentiality. The next one that I like to do is being a time of non-judgment, and pointing out that non-judgment is a practice. It's not something that you just do. It's something that we practice. And listening for when judgment comes up in yourself, and noticing what the subject is on. and you might want to journal into that subject yourself. But if we can, when we're sat in circle, to listen, like I said, with the ears of your heart, with compassion is the opposite of with judgment. So if you're the person who is talking in the sharing circle, you know that all of those other women around you are listening from their heart, and they are doing their absolute damnedest not to judge you, and they're aware of their processes. Okay, so non-judgment. Confidentiality. I also like to say that all of your feelings are completely welcome. And some of this setup, not the confidentiality, that's for everybody and every circle. But the non-judgment and the all of your feelings being completely welcome are they're sort of my things that I find really important, based on the fact that I tend to work from a dark moon phase place, and the dark moon phase being an uncomfortable one, deeply transformative, but often deeply uncomfortable as well, and that we just need to be there with all of our feelings, and they're all fine and they're all welcome and they're beautiful. You know, tears are beautiful. So tears, that's a good one. I had noted this one down. Tears, I think, because we're doing everything online at the moment, so this is one of the things when you're in person in a circle together. So after we talk about all of your feelings being completely welcome, we notice and say to the circle that, and this is for you to figure out what is your take on this, so how you will put this forward, because it's different for each space holder. But so if somebody starts to cry, they are fully allowed those feelings. We are not in any way, shape or form going to try and say to them, oh, it's okay, shh, 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 because we do not want to take away from their feelings. And one of the ways that we might want to allow their feelings while also showing that we're there with them and we care for them is maybe put some tissues by them. Don't touch them at any point unless they ask for a cuddle. So touching somebody while they're crying is a bit one of those, like, it's all right, shush, shush, you're making me uncomfortable sort of a feeling. Other people might set their boundaries differently and say, feel free to go in for a hug. Other people might say, you know, ask, would you like a hug? So just find out where you are with that. But also ask yourself, am I doing that to make myself feel better? Or am I doing that to make the woman feel better? So I have one amazing friend in her amazing cronedom, and she would never, ever, ever even pass tissues to somebody in a circle, because she said even that is telling people that they shouldn't cry. And there is a deeper practice with that. So I can't remember which culture it comes from, but I think it might be Inuit, but tell me if I'm wrong, that if you cry and you let your tears drop wherever they drop without brushing them away in any way, shape or form, you are letting those feelings truly move, and you're allowing them to fall on the ground and water the ground. And there's this beautiful reciprocity of emotion and energy. So just notice how you might set that up. So tissues. Other bits, let's see. I had a cup of coffee earlier and I'm feeling a bit now. Compassion, body. Yeah, so encouraging people to listen to their bodies. So noticing what happens in your body when something comes up for you is great. It's somatic practice. And it can be more difficult for people who have any physical trauma as well. But it's really, really helpful to just know and notice when something physically comes up in you. Notice where it is. So is it like your tummy going flip? Is it your heart racing? Is it your shoulders coming up to your neck, you know? So just keep checking in on how you feel when something happens for you. So, for example, when we were talking about the judgment earlier, when some judgment comes up for you, notice what your body does. So just check it in and see. Okay, so next up, what else do I need to tell you from my women's circle work? Let's see. Okay, so I might just rewind it right back to the beginning. And if you're a regular in any of these circles and I've forgotten something, just tell me. Just type it in and I'll shout out. Because I'm bound to have forgotten something. Let's see. Seasonal. Go back to, let's see. Well, that's probably a good one, seeing as I'm feeling all hyped on coffee right now. So there's some practices to help you stay grounded. Oh yeah, so one of the other things you might want to do at the beginning of a women's circle is to point out that everything is a suggestion. Even when we're saying, this is what's going to happen next, and that's what's going to happen next, all of those things are still a suggestion. And remembering we're all equals in this circle. So if you feel like you need the loo, go to the loo. There is no need to ask permission. If you need to stretch, stretch. And if you are stretching and doing some yoga in the circle while the circle's going round, you're giving the other women permission to move when they need to move, instead of sitting there like, I'm listening, I'm listening, I'm listening, as we have been taught in a very patriarchal way of working, of sitting there quietly at your desk, listening and paying attention. This is the opposite of that. So point out to people, you can move, do exactly what you need to do. Yeah, Jenny, I'm trying to work out what love buzzed Ruth. Is that to do with me and coffee? It's not a question, is it? Okay, just clarify if that's a question. Permission. You have permission to do this work. Virtual. Let's go back to the beginnings of a circle. So, yes. So, many circles will use a take radical responsibility for your needs. Yes, thank you, Martha. So that's in reference to what I was just saying about please do what you need to do. Move, do what you need to do, get a drink, etc., etc. And yeah, so as Martha points out, I tend to say, please take radical responsibility for your needs. And that is listening to what you need. And radical is literally just means to the root. There is nothing more. Yeah, coffee. Thanks, Jenny. Yeah. There is nothing more than that. Radical brings all these ideas of even violence into our minds. And all radical means is taking things to its root. So radical responsibility for your needs. Okay, where was I with the... Yes, so in some circles you might have joined, there is a talking stick. And I like to use a talking bowl. I haven't got my beautiful magical bowl, but I have got a bowl here. So it's got biscuits in it. And bowls I love to use rather than a talking stick, but take your pick. So a talking stick is reference to the masculine and the linear way of working. And there is nothing wrong with the linear way of working. It's the patriarchy that we have issue with. The linear way of working is taking action and doing it. Straight line. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. Doing it. Achieved. Done. End. Nothing more comes of it. A cyclical way of working, as you probably know, based on all the work that we do here and the cycles knowledge that I shared with you the other week. Cyclical, a bowl is cyclical, and this is the feminine way of working. And this is the way of working that we've not really been allowed to follow. So this is allowing all of your feelings, this is flowing, this is receptive, this is gentle, and even holding a bowl like this is a gentle hold. Holding a stick is a more physical, strength thing. So this is more gentle. So Having a bowl to pass around, I really love. The other beautiful things about having a bowl is that it is holding and gathering all of your stories in it. So the talking bowl that I use, I've had since I first started doing women's circles. So it has gathered every single story that any of you have ever shared in it. It's also great for practically passing things around the circle. So in it, you or any woman in the circle can put in a crystal if you want to share it around with other people. You could put in a tincture that you've made, or just anything at all that you want to share around. So it's a practical thing to hold stuff. It is also a beautiful, metaphorical gathering of energy of all of your stories. So the bowl is important, or the stick is important, because it is symbolizing who is being heard. So the woman who has the bowl is being completely heard. And I'm just going to get my notes so that I don't forget any of these bullet points, because this bit's really important. Let me see. Well, I didn't note it, that's fine. So whoever has the bowl is being heard. You are not in conversation with the woman who has the bowl. We're not asking any questions of the woman who has the bowl. We are not even, the woman who has the bowl does not even have to speak. We can simply be with her while she has her time to be heard, to be seen, to be whatever she needs. So as long as she has a bowl in her hands, or the bowl right in front of her, she is being seen and heard and fully appreciated, and you're with her. So the bowl is then, you can have that for as long as you want. So timing is important as well. So if you've got 20 women in your women's circle, you're going to have to consider whether you have time for everybody to share for as long as they need to share, naturally, organically sharing. Or you might need to, hi Willow. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Willow's just talking about the idea of the bowl and how cool that is. Always felt like something you could be, yeah. She says it's always felt like something you could be beaten with the sharing stick. Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Willow. Willow does beautiful, beautiful ceremony and beautiful circles and all sorts. So I'm very honoured that I passed something on to you. Thank you, Willow. Okay, so the bowl is then passed around when you have finished having your time, either to share whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to get off your chest. The other thing about a bowl as well is that we sometimes put a little slip of paper in it with suggestions for questions that you might want to answer in your sharing of at the women's circle. So it might be things such as, how are you feeling? What's been going on for you over the last month? Maybe where are you at in your cycle? And if you don't have a menstrual cycle, you might be sharing where you're at in your cycle of life, or the cycle of the moon. It depends what your focus is on each, on your circle. So your questions will be dependent on that. And pointing out as well that this is a suggestion. You can go completely off-piste. The other suggestion as well is that you don't pre-think what you're going to share as much as possible. You might have something that's been going on in your life that you're just like, no, I have to talk about this, and that will be very cathartic for me and helpful. Wonderful. But if you don't pre-plan what you have to say, so Jane Hardwick Collins always says about this, you might hear yourself say the things that you've been needing to say forever. So seeing if you feel safe enough to just free flow with that, and to sit in silence if needs be. If you just need to sit there and cry, we will all be there with you while you do that. It's this beautiful, beautiful thing. So when you've had your time and you feel like, yeah, that's enough for me, and that might be right at the beginning, the bowl might get passed to you and you're like, no, not right now. just pass it straight on to the next person. So the next woman then takes the bowl and we offer her the same time and the same opportunity. Just whizzing back to the thing about time. So yeah, if you have a certain amount of time and a lot of people there, you might want to say everyone has 4 minutes for the sharing circle. There's a few little things you can do with that. So you might have the woman to her right keep an eye on the time and just place her hand on her knee when her time is up, for example. Just, you know, working with whatever way you like to work with that. Personally, unless I have a really, really big group, I like to check in at the beginning what time, if anyone has a time that they have to leave. I really like to then say to everybody, you have as much time as you need to share. Some people's sharings will be much shorter than others, and I just fully trust that it's going to be exactly right. But do it how you need. That is not the way to do it. That is just my way to do it. Okay, timings. Passing on the circle. Okay, so if you have decided you don't want to share anything, or one of the women has decided they don't want to share and they've passed it on, when the bowl comes all the way around the circle, we offer that bowl up to that person again. As a second chance, they might feel more relaxed now, they might have something more to say, and they can either turn it down or they can take the bowl and have another opportunity to have some time being witnessed. So that is the sharing of the sharing circle and of the bowl, and really that is much of the point of a women's circle, is to have time to be heard and to have time to speak and get things off our chest, and to be witnessed in that. So that is that. Has anyone got any questions? I think I've got plenty more to share, but if anyone has any questions, it's probably a really good moment for it. Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate that not only do you have permission to set up a women's circle, but also that this is your birthright. So if you do not have the opportunity to go to a women's circle or to, you know, to go anywhere to do that, it is your birthright to have one. So set one up yourself. Okay. Please do it. I'm going to talk a bit in a moment about doing them on Zoom and doing them online in a second. Oh yeah, so Jane Hardwick Collins talks about women's circles being a place to belong, and that this is the female, so the female response to stress is to be tended to and cared for. So to heal and to tend each other in that way, and to befriend and to hold space for each other and to care. This is actually the best way for a female nervous system to be cared for and to be tended to. Oh yeah, so I was going to talk about Zoom, and I was also going to talk about trauma-informed. So let's have a look through here. Yes, she also points out that oxytocin is created when you sit like this in a safer space, with people hearing you, and you know, yes, you do, Jenny, you can do this. Everyone can do this, because you've got to remember that the people will come that are right for you at whatever point in your journey you're at. So there's plenty of people that have never been to a women's circle before, and you know what you need to do in your women's circles because it's the thing that you're drawn to. So you do the thing that you want to do, and the women that come are the ones that need to come. You have permission. It's not from me. You have permission from your ancestors, from your lineage, from our femaleness. You have permission. Oxytocin. Yeah, apparently we create oxytocin when we're together like this. The other thing that she points out is that we're a mirror. So every woman in that circle is a mirror to each other. It's the opportunity to see ourselves through somebody else's, mirror of you. And that can be challenging, it can be challenging. And the opportunity is there for growth and for change and for honouring and, deepening in your connection to yourself and doing the things that you need to do with your life. Okay, so trauma informed. A lot of the setup that I just talked about is trauma informed. So where I'm gonna want to go with this. I don't want to go into too much detail, but so I have done, and it depends what you want to do. You can go away and set up your own women's circle today. You can go away and research more. You can go away and do some, sit in circle with other people for a couple of years to research it. You can do a combination of all of these things. One of the things that I wanted to do, especially because I worked with the dark moon and with those energies of that can be heavy, is I wanted to do some trauma-informed training. So I did some work with a woman called Shelby Lee, and that's Lee, L-E-I-G-H, Shelby Lee. She comes straight up if you Google her. And she has this amazing online course. It's a little bit expensive. It's about £300. So it's, it's a good amount of money, but it's really fully worth it, especially if you work with people in any sort of therapeutic setting as well. So I did that bit of training. But essentially, if you want to simmer it down, what she teaches, it is that the safety aspect that we've just talked about, the confidentiality, the non-judgment, and she talks about not touching each other at all in any way, shape or form, unless you actively are reaching out for a hug. So you want to check in, can I give you a hug, or does anyone want to give me a hug? To help with any triggering responses, any physical traumas, anything like that. What's the other big one that she talks about? Yes, so those of you that have sat in circle with me will know this one, and this comes from Shelby Lee, which is if you tell another person that this is a safe space, if you tell a person with trauma, this is a safe space, they will spend the whole time that they are sat in circle with you trying to spot what is not safe about this supposedly safe space. So she uses the phrase safer space, and she suggests that us as circle holders or space holders also use that phrase. And a safer space, or as safe as possible a space, is really what we're aiming for. If we just tell people outright, this is a safe space, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be a safe enough space for them. Whereas if we change our language and we change our aims around that, so if we say this is a safe space, full stop, we're not offering up space for discussion. We're not offering up the opportunity of finding out what that person and that person and that person needs to make this as safe as possible for them. So when you're opening up the circle, start the conversations up. So instead of just saying, this is what we do for confidentiality, this is what we do for non-judgment, this is what we do for this is what we do for that, actively engage everybody in conversation about that. So when somebody pipes up with, oh, but what about this? You're encouraging them and thanking them for bringing in another layer to your safer space, because everybody is equal in this, okay? So safer space, and Shelby Lee is amazing for that. Really in-depth training if you want to do that. And of course, also my circles and cycles training is coming out in a week or so on the full moon, if I finally finish it off. And it's going to be on Teachable. I'm going to talk about Zoom, aren't I, in a minute. So that's going to be on Teachable. And it's more information that you will have got in any day-long So I'm just going to read Kim's comment a sec. It's more information than you will have got on any day-long retreat work with me, even in the Sacred Cycles workshop. And I'm writing this to create like almost a whole year, if you want, of journaling work, of meditation work, of so many different pathways to get you into the cycles. So Zoom and cycles I will talk to you about in a second. Because the cycles essentially are what women's circles are all about. So let me just read Kim's comment. We create a space for women to feel vulnerable during a circle. How can we guide them to protect themselves? Perfect, yes, thank you. As they leave the circle. So not only would I suggest that you guide them to protect themselves when they leave a circle, I would insist really that you guide them and show them how to protect themselves while they're in the circle. So, I really shouldn't have had that coffee. I'm absolutely buzzing. Breathe. Okay. Let me note this down. So, circle, safety, opening. Okay, so there's a few things to share with you about that. Thanks, Kim. One of them is, so it depends where you're working from for your circle. So I'm a shamanic practitioner, so I call in all of my guides and helpers to help with this. And it depends who you are and what your belief system is. So I'll just share with you what I do, and you can work with that and come up with your own if you need to. So I open up a circle around all of the women who are in circle. And to do that, we literally just ask for it. We set an intention, we feel it, we imagine it, and we welcome it in. So I literally just ask my guides and helpers and every woman in the circles, guides and helpers, to hold space around us, standing in circle all around our circle. And they literally stand behind our backs, holding the space. And we ask them then to hold out anything that is not helpful and allow in all the things that we need and want from this circle. So you don't really need to go much deeper than that. If you want to list all the people and all the helpers that might be standing around you, you might want to do that. So sometimes I literally close my eyes and I welcome in my guides and all of the women who are with us, guides, helpers, angelics, ancestors, and there's this huge list of all of the spirit helpers that could be there. So a big circle around you, protecting, holding the space, and holding out anything that is not helpful. Okay, so that's the first protective holder. Next one is to give them things that they can do and practice when other people are sharing something that they might find is getting a reaction from them. So also say to them, you know, if you need to go for a walk, go for a walk. If you need to go to the loo, go to the loo. If somebody is sharing something that is triggering you, notice what you need to do. Do I need to leave the room? Go for it. Do I need to go to the loo? Gather myself or be with those feelings? Go for it. Do I need to go and get a drink? Go for it. If it's a smaller reaction and you're just noticing as it starts to appear, there's a few little energy tips and hacks that you can play with here. So one of them is the Qigong practice, Qigong energy practice. So if you can imagine now, you can't see me here, but you've got your arms wide open like this. And you're listening to somebody's story that is really, oh my gosh, that's really shocking what's just happened to you this month. That's going to really hit us in our heart spaces, and we're going to be wide open to feeling this stuff. So what we want to do is we want to do the opposite to that. So if we start off by being really wide open and compassionate and from our heart like this, and we notice a subject has just come up that makes us go, triggers us a bit or a lot, we're going to bring our arms in. So bringing them in for a start is like a protective, a bit safer. The other one that we can do is bringing our thumbs in and our hands over. That is also very protective and sort of a hug for ourselves that we can do. And then the next stage after that is to literally cross your arms to hold it, or cross them over your lap. And these are just little Qigong energy practices for keeping you safer. And then the next step then would be, no, I'm just going to go to the loo, or to preempt that, like, this is not going to help me when somebody is talking about a subject that triggers me big time. So I'm just going to go over there or leave the room for now. Okay. And then, as Kim asks, how can we guide them to protect themselves when they leave the circle? So at the end of the circle, I always close that outer circle and I say thank you to our guides and helpers, and we now close this circle. And then, of course, we are open again. So sometimes one of the things that I might say after that is that out loud, I know and trust that everybody's guides and helpers are always with them and will be exactly where they need to be next to each individual to help hold and protect them as they go about their day, their life as they leave. So that's one way. It's also really important to ground afterwards or as you're closing from a circle. So grounding, I'd go away and just do your own research on different grounding techniques. You might be using breath work, you might be using meditation, but really it's about getting into the here and now. So at the end of a circle, different grounding techniques. We might grow our roots, imagine our roots growing down into the earth. We might dance, you might shake off, really feel everything in your body and shake it off. One of the things I like to do with people is to bring them into the space. So you just literally look around the room. And this is especially good if you're doing a Zoom call, because otherwise you're like this the whole time, you're really ungrounded. So bring yourself into the room and you're looking for different textures and different colours, and you're just really observing them and being with them, looking at the light around your room, looking at the different things that you might be able to feel and touch, and essentially really just checking out your hands and your body and how does it feel. And how do you feel sat on the floor? And then when you put your feet on the ground, really feeling your feet on the ground and really stretching and moving. Protection after a circle really shouldn't be needed, because really what you should have done in a circle is raised everybody's vibration. So they should go away feeling and that is not going to attract any negative stuff. If you're working with all of the trauma-informed information, again, that will help people not going away feeling triggered and traumatized. That is exactly what you don't want to do. So yeah, just getting people back in their bodies at the end. If you're worried about the re-traumatizing aspect, go and do the trainings. Different trainings like that. But yeah, responsibility, we join a circle and we state we're taking responsibility here, and I'm doing everything I can to hand you toolkit to help you feel good with that. But learning and learning about yourself as well is, we need some uncomfortable moments to help us feel good at the end of it, and to learn and to grow as well. So little mention of Zoom, and then a little mention of cycles. So if you are doing a circle on Zoom, which might be exactly what you're doing right now or needing to do right now, so So yeah, like I mentioned, the grounding stuff is really important. So getting people to not just be staring into their screen is going to be really important, and keep reminding people all through to keep grounded and keep checking in with what they need and what they physically need, and checking in with their environment. The really important one with Zoom and with any video calls, excuse me, is to point out in the confidentiality clause if there's anybody else in your space who could be overhearing the circle, is that everyone needs to be wearing headphones. Because otherwise, you know, you might have 15 women on the screen in front of you, and there's a husband listening in to all of their stories. That does not create a safe enough space. So paying attention to the confidentiality aspect of that. You will probably need Pro Zoom to make sure that you can have enough people, and to make sure that you can, I don't know if they've changed all the rules, but I think is it half an hour or something for a free Zoom call? And you're going to need at least an hour. So Pro Zoom is not that expensive. It's not expensive at all, really. And if everybody puts a few quid in, you could be paying for the Zoom that way. Okay, Zoom. Is there anything else with online work that anyone might like to ask about with women's circles? So feel free to ask if it pops up for you, any questions. But yeah, the cycles aspect. So really, a woman's circle is all about the cycles. And you might be specifically doing the women's circle by the moon phase. You might be specifically running a woman's circle by your menstrual phase, maybe. You might be doing it each Sabbath, you know. You could be running a moon cycle based on any of the cycles. And if you think about it, we're sat in circle. We're sat in a cycle of a circle. And sharing the cycles with those women is going to be really empowering and really helpful to them. So the cycles work is, like I shared in the last video, is a taster of that. And if you want to run these women's circles, I would really, really encourage you to do the online work that I'm creating for the cycles work. It will just get you really, it also has lots of questions in there that you might want to share with your circles. Lots of journaling questions, lots of sharing questions, that sort of thing. It really is. I didn't really think about it when I started, but now that I've been asked to share this with you, the cycles workshop that I'm writing is literally for this work. It is what it is. You know, moon magic, knowing what the moon cycles are all about, how you can do magic with the moon, how you can set your intentions, working with the energy, working with this very practical idea of what magic is. What is magic? But transformation. And that's what a cycle is. It's the transformation of different things in cycles. Okay, so if you're on my email list, you will get a link up to that coming out on the full moon of this month. If you're not on my email list, you don't get any of my emails, send me a message on here or send me an email to ruth@ruthcato.com and I will put you on it. And if anyone has any questions, put me a message and I will share that with you. So I'm going to go and calm my heart rate down now from that small cup of coffee I had. And go out and start your women's circles. Love you.